I'm going to call on a couple of leaders here to take it up a notch. City Council President Sean Wooden, could you come up here? I need your help. And another great city leader, I'm going to ask her to come up. Evelyn Richardson, could you come up? I caught her off guard. She was in the middle of eating a little egg right when I called her. Now, this is going to be a little warm-up exercise, okay? What? Evelyn, you come over here. We're gonna do a duet. Yes. We're gonna do a duet. You can call on your people. Your people are the women. You got the men. Here's the deal. You start off saying, "Baby, I really gotta go." Let's go, Evelyn. Okay, but don't try to steal the show, Evelyn. Just do what I tell you to do.
Baby, I really gotta go.
And you say, "But baby, it's cold outside."
But baby, it's cold outside.
Does everybody know the song? Sing it this time, Evelyn. I really gotta go. Let's go. I really gotta go. No. You don't do the baby part. You just do, I really got to go. I really gotta go. Women, let's do it together. I really gotta go. Men. But baby,
It's cold outside.
again.
I really gotta go.
Baby, it's cold outside.
Sit down. Like, I couldn't have picked the two worst people in the room to lead this thing. You know, let's keep in mind that all leaders aren't good at everything. Got it. But we got some great leaders here on the education front. But first, I'm the only one get to give a long speech because I'm the moderator. My name is John Motley, in case you don't know me. I'm waiting for the applause to die down. Please. This might hurt me. This might hurt me with a couple women I've been talking to, but I'm just going to put it out there. Last May, I went back to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale for my 50th anniversary. Did that knock me out? Yeah. Okay, well. For my 50th anniversary, I graduated from Southern Illinois University. Thank you. Now, my sister is on the board there, and so she was there, and my brother flew in from California. The three of us and our father were all at Southern Illinois University together 50 years ago. So education is my passion. It was my parents' passion. It changed our life. It changed the life of our family. It broke the cycle of poverty for our family. I remember when I used to eat beans with cornbread mashed in it, and I thought that was a delicacy, and I still do. So if anybody want to cook me some great northern beans, I like a lot of pepper in it, and cornbread. But education changed my life. Every one of my children went to college, every one. Half of them got advanced degrees, the other half probably never will, but that's fine, they all went. But I want to introduce my panelists. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. You get to tell a very short story about yourself, like a minute. Go.
Hi, I'm Millie Arciniegas. I was born and raised here in Hartford. I attended Buckley High School. From there, I joined the military, the Navy, for 4 years. Yeah.
Would all the military veterans please raise your hand? All military veterans, raise your hand. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Go ahead.
And then from there, I went to college, got a degree in computer information science, a bachelor's degree in computer information science, and then came back to Hartford and got involved with parents, helping them navigate the school system through PTOs. And today I am the executive director of the Hartford Parent University.
Give her a hand. Really awesome. My Vietnam buddy.
Good morning. My name is Steve Harris. I am a lifelong City of Hartford resident. Went to local school, CA Bible School on Tower Avenue, which is now the Media Journalism School. Weaver High School, left here, went off to war, Came back from the war, was fortunate enough to get a job, which is in short demand around here as of late. Worked 27 years in the Hartford Fire Department, retired in 1997 as a captain, went on Hartford City Council, did that for a little while. I am a typical hood rat. I'm a Cleveland Avenue boy, born and raised. Born and raised, and I'm not ashamed to say I'm a North End brother. I'm here today because I have 4 grandsons, and I'm worried to death about them. I'm worried about the lack of opportunity. I, for one, think I got a great education out of the Hartford school system. I'm a guy that believes in neighborhood schools. I'm a guy that believes in parents being involved in the education of their children. And that's important, that you have to be involved in the education of your children. But I also understand the system has gotten complicated.
No preaching right now. I just want to let the people know who you are. Next, good talking to you. Yes. Love of God.
Go ahead, Craig.
We'll get 'em later.
My name is Craig Swan. I'm born and raised in Hartford.
Start over. People are still laughing at Steve. So go.
My name is Craig Stallings. I'm a lifelong resident of Hartford as well. I was born and raised here by a single mom. I was raised pretty much by most of the elders in this room, especially the man sitting next to me.
Oh, no, that's not right. That was not right. Go ahead.
I'm a member of the Hartford Town Committee. I went to Rawson, graduated from Weaver High, attended the University of Hartford. I've been working in politics pretty much my whole adult life. I worked at the state capitol for Thurman Milner, who implemented a community board at his school with Mr. Andrew Woods, which later was implemented, which later led to the school governance councils, which my mother implemented when she was a board member.
There she is in the back. There she is. Stand up. There she is.
I'm pretty much here to carry on the tradition. I'm a neighborhood guy. I am pretty much the same as Mr. Harris. I'm a community guy, I'm a neighborhood guy, I'm a Hartford guy to my heart, and I'm here to make sure that our children get the best education, and that is it.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Swan. I'm the Chief School Improvement Officer for the Hartford Public Schools. I've worked for the Hartford Public Schools since 2010. Prior to that, I was a middle school principal in Springfield, Massachusetts. Before that, I was a middle school assistant principal. I was a middle school and a high school teacher. I taught history before I went into administration. I've had various roles since I've been in Hartford for the last 4.5 years, one of which was doing the turnaround work or the school design work. So I worked in various schools in the city. I was been involved in Milner for the last 2 years. Been involved at Clark and other schools, Rawson, Global in the North End as well. So I'm happy to be here this morning and glad to see all of you as well.
So, parents, this is really truly about you and the choices that you have to make regarding your children. I'm going to ask all the students to stand up right now. All the children, all the students stand up. All the students stand up. This is for you. Thank you. Thank you. We're doing this for you. Now, several of my panel members threw out some code words. I just want to break the codes. Several of them mentioned neighborhood schools. What do you mean by that, Steve Harris? Captain Harris?
A school that you can get in after 3:30. A school where you had night gym. A school where neighborhood kids could go after school was out. That's what a true neighborhood school is.
You uncross your arms when you're talking to me.
I don't think so.
Love of God. So, Craig, is that the same thing you meant by neighborhood schools? You were just mocking, I take it after your mentor.
No, I believe the same thing. It's more than that. It's a school that...
You're going to take it above what your mentor said.
Well, yeah.
Go.
It's a school that services the community 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. It's a school that is the anchor in the community. It is the epicenter of what happens in the community. It is where parents and children and community should congregate and discuss or debate the issues of the day, how we're going to change our community, how we're going to better make, forgive me for that, how we're going to make a educational process that comes out of the school and focuses on the community and how the community should focus on the school. So the schools and neighborhood schools are the anchor of our community, and it should be a full service facility.
Jonathan, I'm going to ask you to define charter schools, define magnet schools, and tell me if they can be neighborhood schools as well.
So when I think of neighborhood schools, first of all, what comes to mind is the fact that the vast majority of our students are in our neighborhood schools. Our charter schools and our magnet schools are schools that service students in our neighborhoods, but they also service students from outside our neighborhoods. When it comes to magnet schools, they service students from the suburbs. And our charter schools are neighborhood schools with different governance structures, and they are chartered by the state, not the district. Although we have strong partnerships with our charter organizations, their oversight is from the state, not from the district. Magnet schools are from the district if they're a Hartford magnet school versus a Craig magnet school. Again, so the vast majority of our students are in our neighborhood schools, which means these are the schools that take kids all year long. There is no cutoff date. There are no particular requirements for what type of student you have to be to go to that school. Those are our neighborhood schools, and those are the schools that clearly need the most focus at this point.
So Millie, from a parent standpoint, does it matter whether a child, a scholar, is going to a Hartford public school, a charter, or a magnet as relates to quality?
It does matter. As it relates to quality, what we're finding, what parents are finding, is that when their children go to magnet schools, they find a different quality there than they do in neighborhood schools. And Jonathan raised a great point, is that neighborhood schools have to take in kids all year long. So you have some schools that have to take in, so say 100 kids in January. And then you're asking that school to perform, right? You're asking everybody in there, oh, we got 100 new kids, so let's perform.
Adjust to that.
Right, adjust to that, where charter schools and magnet schools, they have that cutoff, so they already know their budget, and they already can budget it out for the rest of the year. So there's a difference in quality.
Okay. In the North End, there are 2 charters. Full disclosure, I'm the chairman of the board of Achievement First, which has almost 1,000 kids, scholars in the North End. The other one is Jamoke, which we must work to make sure it succeeds. Jamoke must succeed. But we have several magnets in the North End. Could you identify those, anybody? What magnets do we have in the North End?
Annie Fisher STEM, Annie Fisher Montessori, Journalism and Media Academy, University High School, Breakthrough, 2.
Cap Prep.
Capital Prep.
Okay. Very good. So we have a mix in North Hartford of charters, magnets, and regular Hartford Public Schools. I'm just going to put it out there. Even though I chair the Achievement First, I don't care what the tag is on a school. What I care about, and my hope is what you care about, is quality education for your students. That, in my opinion, is primary. If you want to make the choice to put your kid on a bus to go to a suburban open choice school, that's your choice. That's what choice is about. My concern is that we don't have enough quality throughout Hartford to have true choice. And I want Jonathan to respond to that.
I think your point is accurate. We don't.
Well, darn right. Next, let's move on. No, go ahead, Jonathan.
We don't have enough quality, high-performing choices for parents. So, in many cases, the choices that parents have are very similar in nature in terms of the performance of the school. I think there's a lot more to the story, right? I think that not all schools are equal. Not all needs are equal. So some schools they have different needs. They have students with different needs. And I think we have conditions for improvement that are different in some of our schools as well. So, I mean, the superintendent's transition report spoke to this disparity, right? It talked about the fact that 88% of our students who are English language learners are in our neighborhood schools, right? And that 75 or something percent of our special needs students are in our neighborhood schools. So what it means is we have to create a system and a structure in our neighborhood schools that can meet the needs of those students, no matter where they are in the city. It's not easy work, but it's work we have to focus on. And the district has a major responsibility within that. But I also think it's important to note that the other factors, one that Millie touched on, are factors that impact the quality of the educational opportunities at our neighborhood schools that don't impact the educational experience at some of our other schools. We have schools in Hartford with 48% mobility rate. That means almost half of those students are new to that school from one year to the next. So you have to reset and restart to try to meet the needs of those kids, and that's our responsibility. No excuses, right? We have to meet the needs of those kids, and we have to take every kid, regardless of where they are, we have to move them to where they need to be by the time they get to the end of high school. But every kid individually is going to have a different track to get there. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that no matter where a parent chooses to go, that school is structured in a way that no matter what those needs are that kid comes to school with, that it can accommodate that child.
Very good. Millie, why are you looking at Steve when I'm talking to you?
Because I want Steve to talk.
Oh, Steve has been trying to get his voice to sound more like mine, but no, I'm talking to you right now. Millie, why is there so much disparity between schools, no matter whether it's charter, magnet, or public neighborhood? Why is there so much disparity?
I think we have, with the chef movement, we had good intentions, and I applaud and commend those parents that worked so hard to bring equity into our schools for us to see what it looks like to have an opportunity for an equal education for our children. But somewhere down the line, we needed to do it for all, right? So it couldn't just have been a magnet charter. It had to look at the neighborhood schools and use the best practices that magnets and charters had, which is enrollment cap is one of them. That's the recipe of success. Enrollment cap, then you have special needs. Special needs students is a low population of special needs students so that they can give them the best quality education they need, along with ELL, same thing, the percentage, and along with effective teaching. So those are the recipe of success, and the number one priority that parents look at is safety. Every parent looks for a school for safety. So that's first and foremost. So if we're not doing that to the neighborhood schools, the same best practices that we found in magnet schools and charters, we're doing a disservice to our neighborhood schools. So how do we do that, right? Because we have to have the kids somewhere, right? Everybody else has their enrollment cap. But what we're saying is we need a way out too. So we need a way out where we could say, money follows the child. Give me a voucher, a scholarship, and I, as a parent, can choose the school I want to go to, where it's going to meet the best needs. It's going to meet the needs of my child. Sorry.
Well, you pulled it out at the end. Okay, very good. So, Steve.
Yes.
What do we have to do to get the lower performing schools performing at a much higher level?
I think we have to demand. And I think too often we ask, but I think we have to demand that folks who are in those schools who are supposed to be educating our children do just that. I mean, everybody gets up and goes to it, not everybody, but a lot of folks get up and go to a job. When you get up and you go to a job, you're required to perform a service. I think too often we allow mediocrity to become the norm in our schools. So to me, it's just real simple. Everybody has a job, do your job. If you're not doing your job, then you need to be replaced from your job. That's just...
All right. Even though you just got through talking, Millie, I'm going to call you back in. What's the role of the parents in improving our education system, getting rid of this disparity that exists? What's the parent's role?
The role of the parent is to know her, which she does already. She needs to know her child best, okay? And she needs to form a plan.
Hold on a second.
Or he.
Or he.
Okay, that's all.
He or she.
Because Craig was about to go off.
This was a setup. But we really, they underestimate parents in Hartford. We can bring our assets to the table, okay? So, this whole education process, we can better understand it as parents. When we understand it, we do better. So, we know our child best. So, when you have a plan, a personalized learning plan for each of your children, you know where you're going. So you can ask, you can use the school as a resource. You can demand what you need for your child, because you're not giving them a way out of these low-performing schools. So the next best thing is, let us use every resource we have in the school to make sure that each of their children get where they need to be.
That was good the way your head slid at the end. That was good. Very good. Craig, Steve made a very strong point that seemed to me to be aimed at the educators doing their job. And that's why I brought it back to Millie to say, what about the parents? I'm not going to ask you to defend the school system. I'm going to ask you to talk in terms of community. What can the community do to help in the whole education process?
Honestly, first, the community needs access to the educational process in the school, which they don't have right now. And I say greater community. The school system and schools have community partners that provide a service, but the general greater community does not have a relationship with the school. For example, you have community leaders on the stage right now. Are we teaching our children about local heroes, local community leaders? What heritage do you have in these neighborhoods? For example, I think that if schools focus on the prevalent cultures around the school, for example, you have Puerto Ricans, you have Dominicans, you have African Americans, you have West Indians. And a
few white folks.
Okay, a few white folks. But if you teach a multicultural curriculum where we are accepting our differences and we are trying to focus on how we can improve the community as a student body in the school, and we form those kind of relationships, that's more lasting than simply saying, hey, listen, you know what, we're going to educate our kids and then we're going to release them at 3 o'clock, and then they're your responsibility to educate how you want to educate after that. As a community organizer or as a community leader, I'm not an educator, so I do not know how to say, hey, listen, Johnny, let's take everything you learned today and apply it. But if through my educational process, community leaders were a big part of my life, so I knew I had value in school and out of school. And everything that I learned in school, my leadership wanted to see me apply to help the greater good of the community. So, if I'm an avid reader, I love to read, then read to the babies, teach them how to read, volunteer. If you have a church, like my mother's church, if you have a church and you have a whole bunch of educators in there, let's organize the educators and let's provide tutoring for our neighborhood, our community school. So we have solutions from the community that aren't really getting into and making their way into the schools, to our students and to our after-school programs. And that's the kind of thing that we have to change. We have to embrace our schools, and the education system, the district, the principals and teachers have to embrace our community. And we need that reciprocal relationship.
Jonathan, You've heard a lot of discussion about what various components of the community are looking for. What's your response in terms of what do you need from us?
Well, let me start just by touching on a couple of things.
You answer the question. You answer the question.
I'm going to answer your question.
Okay, fine. Carry on.
I have to preface it first,
Fine,
right?
fine, Jonathan. I'll give you a little rope here.
As the school district, we have a responsibility. Teaching and learning is our business, right? That's what we have to do, and we know we have to do a better job of that, right? So let's just put that out there. The transition report speaks about the unintended consequences of the last 8 years of reform, and one of them was a lack of a coherent focus on teaching and learning. So we had some pockets of success, and when you were well-resourced and you were focused, you did well. And many of our schools did, many of them did not. So we have to respond to a lot of the findings that came out of that report, including making sure that all of our schools have the foundational resources, guidance, and direction in terms of teaching and learning, first and foremost, right? Which may also speak to making sure there's culturally relevant curriculum and teaching practices, right? But we also, within that report, talk about making sure we have effective engagement with the community. I mean, there have been pockets of that through the 8 years of reform, where some of the programs and the new schools that we talked about came as a result of the community saying this is what we want or this is what we need. And there are conversations ongoing currently in that same vein, like we're talking about the new Weaver, making sure that's the school that the community asked for. But there's a lot more to it. So as we start to go into our strategic operating plan, we have to be really intentional to make sure that we're engaging the community to make sure that what we're setting out as goals and priorities is consistent with what they feel and believe are the same goals and priority for the community.
Let me just dig down a little bit. Global Communications and Journalism over on Tower Avenue is a magnet school.
Journalism is global.
Journalism is a magnet school. Why?
Why? Well, it came through the chef negotiation process. I'm not someone who participates in that process, but there are a lot of our new magnet schools that came out of that process, Breakthrough 2, Betances. So I'm not sure I can answer the question as to why.
Okay.
I will say
and that's
that
fine.
I think,
and this was not intended as an attack, but it's just we can't throw the symbol magnet on a school and expect folks to flock to it. And here's my concern. That school is what percent? What's the enrollment of that? What percent is it capacity?
I would say they're about 50% capacity.
Roughly half full, Paris.
Neighborhood school.
Question. You can walk to that school from many of your areas. What do we have to do to make that school a true small M magnet? What do we have to do to make that school a school you want to send your kids to? Don't you think that's the question? What do you have to do to make every school attractive enough, I'm going to say it, I'm going to be blunt, good enough for me to send my grandkids to? I want for your children, grandchildren, Steve, the same quality that I sent my children and grandkids to. And my hope is that's what all, thank you, beautiful, thank you, thank you. Put the film on, put the camera on her. The youngest person, stand up, beautiful, stand up and turn around and show the people, she got it, yes, understand. She got it. I'm talking to you the rest of the day, forget the rest of these people. But we need magnet schools with a small M. We need charters, we need neighborhood schools that you want to send your kids to. Demand the quality, as Steve said, such that you don't ignore a school on Tower Avenue. You'd rather put your kids on a bus than to send your kids to that. I'm gonna wait for the applause to die down. Thank you. Thank you. I thought that was brilliant myself. So Steve, you're leaning forward.
You know, when you talk about the journalism media school, that's C.A. Barber School. That's a school I went to from kindergarten to 8th grade. I left there and went to Weaver High School. I walked around the corner.
Hold on a second. Let's just start some mess. Weaver High, raise your hand.
Go Beavers.
Hartford High, raise your hand. What's the other school?
Buckley.
Buckley. Oh, okay, Prince Tech. That used to be the big four. And so, go ahead, Steve. I just want to get some stuff going.
And you know, when we talk about, and I think your question was a great question, because you know it pains me, because I still live on Cleveland Avenue. To go past, I still call it Bible School because that's what it is to me. To go past Bible School and look over there and see a half full school. I go to the Y every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I leave my house at roughly about 4:30 in the morning. And last week, I happened to be, as I usually do, come out of my house, get in my car, go down Cleveland Avenue, and I noticed a school bus sitting on Cleveland Avenue. This is like, 20 minutes to 5 in the morning. I'm like, okay, maybe it's just a driver. And just continue on. Well, last Friday, as I went down Cleveland Avenue to go to where I was going, I noticed a mom putting a child on the school bus at 4:45 in the morning. Now, this is on Cleveland Avenue. Bible School is right around the corner. Wish School is up the street around the corner. Simpson Waverly is up the street, over a couple of streets, and around the corner. Clark Street is up the street, take a left, and down 3 or 4 blocks. Here's a child getting on a school bus at 4:45 in the morning. I'm assuming they going to school because they're getting on a school bus. My question is, why are children up that early getting on school buses when there are schools in their neighborhoods? And it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know, I'm uninformed most of the time, that we spend $21 million a year on school buses. And we talk about there's not enough funds for schools, but we're spending $21 million a year on school buses, gasoline and insurance. Let's take that money, put it into the neighborhood schools, and get them computer labs or whatever else those kids need in there.
Okay, let's go a little deeper now that we got it going. Thank you. Now we got it going. But so what you're saying, Craig, what I heard your mentor say is he doesn't believe in open choice.
No, he didn't say that.
I didn't say that. I said I believe in neighborhood schools.
Excuse me. All right, defend him.
He believes that parents should have a choice to send their children to a quality neighborhood school. And that is also that's part of the choice process. And if you are not afforded a quality school in your neighborhood, then you essentially are not afforded a choice to maximize, one, the neighborhood school in your area, two, to help improve your community, and 3, feed the growing minds in your community. And if you can't do that, if a child has to go outside of their community in order to receive an education, there are certain intangibles that they're not receiving. Like I said before, I went to Rawson, largely in the northwest section. It was racially isolated. It was pretty much 100% black. And then at that school, I was taught that I was somebody and that I had value. And again, everybody in this room reinforced that at some point or another. And I say all that to say that I believe I got a quality education. I believe wholeheartedly in the education that I got in my younger years. And I did not have to leave the city in order to get that. And that's the experience that we want to pass down generation to generation. We don't have to sit next to anyone, be it black, white, Asian, in Bloomfield or Simsbury or anywhere else. We should be able to open our door, walk down the streets, and participate in any kind of community activity at any particular one of these neighborhood schools.
All right, I'm gonna shift a little bit. Among other things I do, I chair the Hartford School Building Committee, and I'm gonna make a statement that needs to be said. We have too many schools in the North End. We have too many schools in the North End that are failing. We need to, I'm just gonna say it, close at least one school in the North End, period. Because we have too many schools for the enrollment we get. We are running the risk at journalism that if our enrollment doesn't increase, we've got to repay the state the money that they advanced, the 80, whatever percent they advanced to build the school. We don't have that kind of money. We must wrestle with some of the real issues surrounding, and I think you guys are all over it, but we've got to look at the possibility that one school must be closed.
Can I interject real quick?
Please.
First, I would say to that, that school was magnetized without the participation and the input of the community. So that's something that we're going to be, if we're stuck holding that bag, that should be a lesson learned. Do not magnetize any school without going and make sure you have full-on community support and buy-in. So that's one. Two, education is becoming expensive. And since you're taking a risk, I would say that kind of looking, I'm a member of the Finance and Audit Committee, we're guesstimating 2 schools, not necessarily 1. And if you look at just the educational process over 100 years, it's very expensive. So we should find different ways to make sure that we educate our children and we're fiscally responsible. Paul gave me a book to read. You know, Millie's reading it. I guess I'm the last person to read this book.
And the parents.
What's it
And
called?
some of the parents. What is it?
No child held back. No child held back.
No child held back.
Was it the author here?
It's one of the parents.
It's really one of those books. If you start reading it, you can't put it down because it challenges your personal idea of what education is and how your process is. And part of what the book explains is if we look to educate our children and really want to provide a quality education, we need to use more technology. We need to use more, we need to change the infrastructure. And one thing that when Adamowski was here and he was doing his reform, what they did not address was infrastructure change. How do we deal with the transient population in North Hartford? How do we deal with enrollment of 100 students mid-year? How do we compensate for that? How can we take some of these students that are enrolling mid-year at Clark and roll them over to other neighborhood schools? Or how do we find, put it like this, I think one of the contentious points that suburban parents, or the reason why suburban parents are sending their children to journalism is simply because it's located in the north end of Hartford. And so they have a perception of North End. My very first board meeting, I had parents from Enfield come and they were protesting the possibility of Kinsella building their high school at St. And their number one thing is, listen, it's not safe. I don't want my kids here. I don't want to be a part of this community. And so you're not going to get buy-in from the suburban towns if you locate a quality school in North Hartford, but they don't understand that they have to, they do understand they have to be a part of the community. They don't want to be. And they flat out say it. And they're saying it by not sending their children there. So that is something that we have to look at. And if we can change the status of that particular school and magnetize another school, that's fine. But other than that, we're going to pay that money back because there's no way we're going to.
I'm going to make a statement that is complimentary but a little different.
Okay.
If X school, and I don't want to keep talking about, if X school was a magnet and it was a quality school, people would go to it no matter where it is in the city of Hartford. Do you think that's true or not?
No.
Okay, great. I want to withdraw. I didn't say it. Never said it. There are some limitations about where magnets can work.
Yes.
It works at Learning Corridor. It works on college campuses. It works where there are transportation that can get in and out quickly.
Right. It doesn't work in neighborhoods and communities that historically have been neglected and passed over. It doesn't work in communities that have decaying buildings and that have, like I said, reputations for violence and people that don't care. It won't work. And again, if you don't have community buy-in, so the community can say, all right, fine, we're going to welcome our parents from the suburban towns, and we're going to make sure that they have a wonderful experience, that they know our community is safe, because actually Tower Avenue is pretty safe. You know, that is a very good community. I used to live over on Ashwood Street, right around the corner from the old Barber Street School. So it's a wonderful community, and it's a shame that we are doing more to sell the entire neighborhood as well as the school. But that is about effort. And again, if you had people at the table that understood the city, and not to say that you don't, but if you had people at the table who understood the city, if you had people within that negotiation that understood the nuances of the neighborhoods and the community, we wouldn't have those mistakes. That was a mistake. You know, as a Weaver alum, as a Weaver alum, I feel that our school was stolen in the middle of the night. If you walk into that school, you will see on the wall, Thomas Snell Weaver. But without the district, and I'm not blaming you, within the district, it is journalism and media. That is Weaver. They put it on the wall. That's Weaver High. And now when we talk about the new Weaver won't be Weaver. And basically one thing the community is saying is our culture was disrespected, our norms were disrespected, our traditions were disrespected, and we want to be indemnified. We want to be made whole. We want the school back the way it was. We want our community and our children to focus on Weaver High, and we want to produce quality young people that are global citizens.
All right.
All right. For the record, I just want you to know that I'm Craig's mentor.
Yes.
I've been working with him in the last few years. And so that was awesome. Now, my handlers told me that I had about 10 more minutes, and that was 2 minutes ago. So
that's funny.
I'm violating the rules, and anybody who asks me to be a moderator need to know this, that I'm going to do this. There was no provision for question and answers from the audience. I'm going to ask, are there some burning questions from parents? I'm not going to call on any politician, I'm telling you that right now.
Well, quit
Any
talking.
questions from the audience that's just burning? Yes, ma'am. Who are you and what's your question?
My name is Shantae Brody.
Did I call on you? I was calling on the lady next to you. Okay, go ahead, Shantae.
I am a parent.
Shantae stood me up, that's why I'm so hard on her. Oh, I'm sorry, Shantae, I didn't mean to put your business in the streets. Go ahead.
And my concern is, I'm a substitute teacher. This is my third school. If you spend quality time in the school, we'll start to figure out where we need to start. So we could pretend all day, and I'll repeat it, and I said it at a board meeting, and I've had people, organized parents, to come out and speak out against me, but I don't care. Our kids is not like it used to be. You used to have a couple, we had black teachers. I went to Martin Luther King, Sands, Fox, Weaver.
What's your question, Shantae?
My question is, what are you gonna do about what happens in the building amongst our children, and our children do not have the correct supports that they need to be successful?
Excellent. Jonathan, speak to that.
So I touched on that a little bit earlier when I talked about the focus on teaching and learning. As a result of the portfolio strategy that the district took on 8 years ago, there were varying levels of autonomy, right? So there are schools who had a certain type of curriculum or a certain type of program or a certain theme that worked. Then we had other schools that had a different theme, different curriculum that didn't work, right? So there were different expectations across the board. What came out of the transition report is that has failed too many kids, right? We have to provide some very clear and specific direction to all of our schools, right? In other words, this is the curriculum that's required for all of our kids to make sure that they get the learning that they need. That way, if they do switch and move from the south end to the north end, they're not getting something totally different in terms of what they're learning or when they're learning it, right? We need to also make sure that the schools have similar supports and structure, so they're not schools who say, oh, we don't service those type of kids. And we've had that happen, right? So we can't allow that to happen. We have to, as a district, have to make sure that things are in place so that no matter where your kid goes to school, that things are different. We also have teams of people in schools, routinely, every day, looking at classroom instruction, looking at other things as well, meeting with teachers, providing professional development as well. We have a lot of new and newer teachers. We have a lot of support and direction to provide to build the capacity of the adults to do better work with our kids. So it's a lot of work, but it is work that we recognize. I think shining a light on it through that transition report was important. In other words, people have been whispering about it and talking about it. Now we're saying, no, here's the deal. We have to do better at this because you're right, it is impacting some of our schools. We have to do something about it.
If I can just add to that, we also need to strengthen the SGCs. You know, we have an SGC, we have a government council that is comprised of teachers, parents, two students, and the administrator. And if you notice that something's not working, as a district, as a board, we need to enable the SGC to be able to deal with some issues. That's a curriculum issue, that's a school issue. That is something that the governance team of that school should be handling and making sure that whatever comes from the district is followed with fidelity. And parents, we don't get that a lot. So it's also strengthening the role of the parent in the school community to make sure that they can advocate there.
Okay, we have 4 more minutes. Yes, the question here. No hugging, ask your question.
Hi, I'm LaShawn Robinson. This is a question for our charter neighborhood schools. I wanted to know, what is the charter schools going to do about pushing kids with special education out? How are we going to better that as a community? How are we going to make that work? When are we going to come together as a community to talk to the charter schools to make this not happen to our children, in which the schools are in our communities? So why are they pushing our kids with special needs out?
Steve, you want to take that on?
I'll pass it on to the educator.
Okay, I'm going to allow a pass on. Steve was the first chairman of Achievement First. That's why I mentioned that to him. But go ahead, pass it on.
I think we, not being well versed in that, I would say that as chair of parent community engagement, if that is a community issue that we want to discuss, I will liaison with the chair of the education committee on the city council, and we can put together a public meeting to have that discussion. That is something that I'm sure the chair who is here right now, Mr. McDonald, needs to know, because that is not a city school, it's not a Harvard school, and I'm very limited, we're very limited in what we can do. However, we can facilitate a conversation. Let me just yield to Mr. Swan.
Yeah,
Before you do that, again, full disclosure, I'm the chair of Achievement First, and I'm very, very aware. It's an issue. It is, when people talk to me about comparing charters to other Hartford Public Schools, I take the line that Millie did. It's not a fair comparison when charter schools have a cutoff date and no kids can be admitted after the cutoff date. Hartford Public Schools don't have that luxury. You have to take whoever comes. And if there's a transfer out of a charter, no one comes to replace them. That's not the same with Hartford Public Schools. And there are other issues. But to your point, it has to be dealt with. You and I have talked about it before. It has to be dealt with.
And as a district, one of the things that we have begun to do is, with Achievement First and the state, is to set up some more routine conversations about that specific issue. I literally got an email about it as I sat here this morning from the state, because Achievement First, to their credit, has reached out and said they need some support around that, right? So we are working, our special ed department is working with the state and Achievement First around the multiple issues as it relates to servicing students. Those are still Hartford students, right? So we have a responsibility for those kids, and I know we've talked as well. So we need to make sure we are having more routine and regular conversations with Achievement First to see how the kids are doing, and so we agreed on at least a monthly conversation to that end, but there's a lot more work to be done.
I'm going to call on Millie for comments around this issue.
I just think somewhere around, through all of this, making the options for parents, creating options for parents, we have forgotten that it's equal education opportunity for all. For all. And how do we do that? We got to give parents options for their children. It might not fit in the neighborhood school that she got through the lottery. That's a failing school. her child might not fit in that school. Her child might be able to fit in a school that best meets her child's need. It might be a private school. It's okay for us to talk about that. I think that we as a community, we need to start looking at things that are affecting our neighborhood schools, which is, number one, if we're going out and marketing to the suburban to come into our magnet schools, and they're not coming, then let's fill up those seats with Hartford kids. So that the neighborhood schools can have a chance. They don't have a chance now. I don't care what anybody said. They're not structured to have an equal education opportunity. Thank you.
No, our time is up, and I just want to announce that I've been Millie's mentor for quite a few years now. And, but anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am so thrilled that you are all here. And at this point, I want to just recognize a few of the sponsors. You're going to hear from some of them in a minute, but thank you to all of the sponsors. Where's my friend Nancy Barrows? Where is Nancy? Everybody, does anybody not know Nancy Barrows? Thank you, Nancy, for what you do throughout the community all the time. But the prime mover today was Achieve Hartford. And I'm going to call on this executive director, Paul Holzer, in just a second. First, I want to talk about him. Paul has been with Achieve Hartford, which has done a great job for quite a few years. He's come to this position despite the fact that he went to some schools that you might wonder about. How could someone achieve after having gone to Dartmouth and Yale? Okay, so despite this, Paul Holzer is someone with his feet on the ground and is just an intellectual giant. The executive director of Achieve Hartford, Paul Holzer.
Thank you, John. Just very quick, since there's no real program, just so you know, all these questions, we want to get them addressed in the form of very short breakout sessions that are going to start up in 15 minutes after Hot 97 does some prize giveaways with the street team. But first, just a shout out to everyone for coming out on a Saturday and representing who you all represent and answering these questions as honestly as you could. I think this is the first of many conversations that need to get even much more deeper and much more honest even about what's going to happen in the North End, because you keep hearing about the problem has been recognized. What y'all going to do about it, right? But what are we going to do about it too? That's going to be a lot of what the breakout session is about. Really quick, who is Achieve Hartford? 6-year-old organization started by business and community leaders. We like what we do because we get to do two things. Act somewhat as a watchdog on the school district and have an independent perspective on how things are going. So if things aren't going well, we like to try to call that out. When things are going well, we also like to call that out too. But then also to try to get the community a lot more engaged. So from policymakers to parents, nonprofits who are doing all these great programs, how do you get everyone aligned to really push for just certain solutions that are going to make the biggest difference for kids? I'm going to show you 2 slides, and then I want to introduce some other folks in the community that you're going to get a chance to talk to. We launched a new website that's for the Hartford community called smarterhartford.org. We've been thinking about this for a couple years because basically, if you have school choice in Hartford, which obviously you do, magnet, suburban, neighborhood schools, you have to choose in Hartford. You can't just not choose anymore. It's not even a choice to choose. You have to choose. It doesn't work if you don't know what you're choosing among, right? If you're like, I heard that school's good. Well, that's great that you heard that. Is it good? Right? How are you going to become an informed consumer of your school options? And so this website was just launched this week, and it does some pretty cool things on the computer and on your phone. And I'm not going to go through all these lines, but it just shows you these are all the schools in the North End. And what do you think happens if I unclick the magnet schools, right? Then the top lines will kind of go away. And then the neighborhood schools will be all these ones on the bottom, right, in the North End. But most people know that, right? That's not anything new, right? But there are some things that really people don't talk about. So I don't necessarily want to know, like, how did the school just do last year? I want to know, what did the school do for kids who came in 3rd grade, let's say, they tested in 3rd grade, and then they left. They graduated Rawson in 8th grade. Where were they at, right? So in the cohort that was in 3rd grade in 2008 in Rawson, right? By 2013, when they left in 8th grade, is this Rawson? Yeah, this is Rawson. They came in high in 3rd grade, upper 50s. Guess where they left? Upper 50s. All right. So what does that tell you about the school? So it's not just numbers, tell stories, but we don't use them right. And Hartford needs to get much more sophisticated on how they tell a story of whether or not a school is good. Martin Luther King, right? Kids came in a little bit lower in 3rd grade, in the 40s, right? Well, they left almost at 60, right? So what does that tell you, right? And this data it's good. It's not great because it's not getting taken into account all the kids that are kind of leaving and coming in every year. But we have this data and we have to ask these hard questions like, I don't care about the school last year. I want to know what have they done for kids over a 5-year period, because that's their job. And the last thing I'm going to show is just something like this. We need to also look at new data, because academic data, 1 test score, what does that mean? You got to look at things like, in this school, this is Thurman Milner, right? How many principals have they had since 2007, right?
20.
4, right? And I think the highest in that time was like 5. I mean, that is a huge issue, right? That is not, you can't just put it on parents, on teachers. I mean, these are huge issues that have to be part of the story. If I go to Clark, right? And this kind of gets a little bit to what I think Shantae was saying, which is about the responsibility belongs in a lot of different places, right? Special ed rates at these schools, Millie talked about it, some of them are off the charts, right? 17, 20%. But then you have to look at chronic absence, right? So if you look at, I'm gonna go to Clark real quick, just because I know that one is struggling with chronic absence, right? So Clark chronic absence, that means you have kids that are missing at least 10% of school days in a year. That's 18 days. I think 18 days, like that doesn't sound like a lot. That nationally, if your kid misses 18 days, they are in trouble, right? They are not gonna learn what they need to learn. 47.6% of kids in 2013, this data is a year old, 47% were missing that many school days or more, all right? That can't just be on the schools, right? So this is a problem that we all own, and we have to come together, and we want to give people an opportunity to talk about what can be done to get these questions that you have the status, but what are we going to do about it as a community? And there are other folks and partners who've agreed to be here, and we're going to move the chairs around and do small breakouts and let Hot 97 do their thing in a minute. But Sheila Harris from AFCAMP is here. AFCAMP is educating, empowering, engaging parents in the community to improve quality of life for children with special needs. Yeah, everyone knows AFCAMP. Give it up. We got Nicole Porter representing Blue Hills Civic Association. I probably don't even need to tell people who Blue Hills is. Hartford Parent University, Millie is going to come down from the podium, step down with the lay people. Hartford Communities That Care, Andrew Woods is in the back. Thank you guys for coming out and bringing a table. He's going to facilitate a conversation. Denise Best from Upper Albany Main Street, the NRZ, is going to be here. And even Jose Alfaro from the Northeast Charter School Network, right, who's here not representing one specific charter school, but all charter schools in the Northeast. And you can talk to him about the state of charter schools and how to get more charter schools if you want that, or what's happening in the charter school movement. So we're going to move chairs around and get to that. And I'm gonna look over to Hot 93.7 and just say, guys, it's up to you guys now to kind of get the crowd up and coming towards you while we move chairs. But lastly, just don't go anywhere, and a quick last round of applause to the panelists. Thank you so much for being here.